Sean Payton said there's about 10 to 11 relevant teams each year whenever you start training camp. You know that. Somebody else said that just a few weeks ago or maybe a couple months ago. That statement is something that is talked about, I believe, inside of most locker rooms and most team meetings. Normally the first day of training camp, whenever it opens up, the coach has this entire message that he wants to deliver to the team. Like, hey, here's our motto for the year. Here's our mindset. Here's our kind of getting everybody on the same page while we're about to try to get to the top of the mountain. And then every single speech I've heard is there's only going to be about 10 teams that are really going to make it here. And that's from every coach I've heard. And then if you talk to guys in other teams, these are same messages being said. So whenever Sean Payton comes out and says this publicly, I think it's very interesting because Sean Payton is a guy who has proven that, hey, if I'm the head coach of a team, I just want to let you know my teams are going to be in one of those top 10 teams. Most coaches, you don't hear them talking about that, by the way, because if their team isn't in at the end, it's like, okay, so you couldn't get the job done to make your team one of those 10 to 11 teams that are, relevant to the conversation. I think those 10 to 11 teams, by the way, are normally the same teams if you follow the quarterback play. That's just where you can kind of look. And that's why I assume whenever Tom Brady became a free agent after 20 years, that everybody would want him in the building. And it alludes to what Sean Payton said. He said, as soon as Tom Brady walks into that building, the standard is rose a bit. Everybody's going to be expecting to be at this level. And that's just not the players. That's the athletic trainers. That's the equipment managers. That's the scouting department. That's the managing department. That's literally every department is risen because you're bringing in greatness. And that's why I thought everybody would want Tom Brady in their building. And I think a lot more people did than it has been made public. And Tom Brady alluded to that whenever he was talking to Howard Stern about how a lot of teams are interested, but for the sake of their privacy. Now, could he be doing what Jameis did whenever he said to Pittsburgh Steelers made him an offer and then he ended up with the Saints and nobody else made him an offer? Maybe, but I don't think Tom Brady would do that. But I think it's very interesting that fans believe that their team every single year has a chance of winning the Super Bowl. Whenever the draft just hit, did you hear what Foxy said whenever the draft happened for the Detroit Lions? Who got better? They got better, much better than the Packers got in the Packers. But what Foxy said was, here it is, baby. We're going to go 10-6. We're going to get a playoff game. And who knows, whenever you get in a game, you maybe get hot. It hasn't been once in the last century or so that the Detroit Lions have been one of those 10 to 11 relevant teams, but they have a quarterback and their fans believe that they do. But around the league, there's probably a lot of people who are like, nah, let's go ahead. Let's move the Lions out. All right, they're not one of the 10. Okay, by the way, I assume for the last couple of years, let's move the Buccaneers out. They're not one of the Carolina Panthers last year. No, they don't got a guy. So you could probably see the teams in their heads start shaping who those 10 to 11 teams are each year. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now one of those 10 to 11. They weren't before they got Tom. They weren't before they got Gronk. Now they're up in there. And Jameis Winston, by the way, he is also in one of those 10 to 11 teams and being New Orleans Saints. But I like that Sean Payton has the swagger. He took a shot at the Browns on Twitter last week. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Now he's coming out and saying, there's about 10 to 11 of us that are really worth a damn. I love Sean Payton's swagger. I like what he's got going on down there. And I like anybody that's going to come onto a show and just speak. Because most times in those positions, head coaches, GMs, they don't answer a damn thing. They're politicians. Some of them are better politicians than others. They have an ability to speak to you for 15, 20 minutes without saying a single thing. That's why when Tom Telesco came on yesterday and gave us a great interview, it was quoted everywhere because that's not normal. Sean Payton comes out and gives a true, honest answer here. It's going to be quoted everywhere. Some people will hate it. I am, for one, absolutely love it.
How many teams do you think that they are in that top 10 to 11 teams?
I think coaches know. I think coaches know. But Joe Thomas told us after every single training camp, he thought they had a team that was going to be able to make a run. Now, is that because Joe Thomas never saw a team that made a run? Is that because he didn't know?
Yeah, maybe.
Like Frank Gore, for instance.
Yeah.
Frank Gore, whenever he was deciding where he wanted to go in free agency and everything like that, he has been noted as saying a couple of times, what it looks like. Right? That's a quote that Frank Gore goes some people know what it looks like, he told me on a plane. He said, I think that this guy knows what it looks like to succeed, or I think this guy knows what it looks like to succeed. If you've never been around something that has succeeded, how can you tell if your team's going to be good or not? There's been a couple years later, when year 6 or 7 or my 8th year, where I remembered what made our first couple years team unbelievable. And then I'd look around and I'd be like, I don't think this team. And by the way, equipment managers, equipment managers know more than anybody. You want to know how a team's probably going to do? Go ask the equipment managers after training camp. It can't be the ones that are new there, but the ones, if they have OG equipment managers, they've snapped the ball, they've caught the ball, they've seen every single drill. There's some people to have a nice sit down and be like, what do you think? They're like, I don't think we got it this year. Or, yeah, I think we got it this year. I think players can't know because their jobs are to play and they think they're going to win every time. But I assume there's coaches and other people that are like, this team stinks.